This right here gonna be a cakewalk.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. In this video, we need to revisit some topics that we covered in the past. The first one that I'll talk about is the sales. We know that Tekken 8 hit 3 million copies sold finally. A lot of people was wondering when it was going to happen, myself included. This is something I was talking to death. And the reason why is because I was trying to highlight that the sales have slowed down. Now, I want to say thank you to Tekken Warehouse, that's Merdoink. This guy creates graphs and all type of like graphs and whatnot, sales charts, whatnot. But we have this one here that shows Mortal Kombat 1, which is red, Street Fighter 6, which is green, and Tekken 8, which is blue. And you can see Mortal Kombat already at 5 million copies sold, even though people say that's the worst fighting game ever, right? Street Fighter 6 is doing incredible things. When you look at their Steam numbers, their Steam charts, they're cooking, and they're kind of close to 4 million. Now, Tekken 8 had the most successful launch out of any of the games. It hit 2 million fastest, and really, technically, it hit 1 million faster than Street Fighter as well. It sold 1 million copies day one. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat did not hit that, right? So Tekken had a very monstrous start, but with all the controversies, it slowed down a little bit. And that's where you see this flat line. But also, do not forget that both Mortal Kombat 1 and Street Fighter 6 is on more platforms than Tekken. This is the issue that they look to resolve with the Nintendo Switch 2, but for right now, you can see that that is kind of giving them an advantage over Tekken regardless. But the fact that Tekken is doing this good without being on PS4 and the old Xbox and the previous Switch is crazy. And also what I want to highlight with this is the sales comparison for Tekken 8 to Tekken 7. Now, in the past, I was talking about how the sales for Tekken 8 has slowed down, and this graph shows you exactly what I mean, right? You see the 2 million and then that huge slant. Now, you can argue whether or not that slant was going to happen, but where the angle of it, the trajectory, is up for debate. But this is what the developers were highlighting when they said in the Tekken Talk that Tekken 8 is still selling faster than Tekken 7. Now, it's pretty close, right? Neck and neck. I think as the time go on to see whether or not Tekken 8 could go up or if Tekken 8 flatten out that way, it will be pretty surprising because I do think there's a lot of things that factored into Tekken 7 being so successful. Like the biggest factor, in my opinion, is Street Fighter 5 being a bad Street Fighter. We always have bad Mortal Kombats, right? But a bad Street Fighter is rare. And Tekken 7 being so good, I think that was a perfect storm for this game to succeed. Now, Tekken has a lot of competition. It has Fatal Fury, it has Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat, Project L, so much stuff, right? So this game has a long journey ahead. Now, the developers are definitely looking to get back on track with Season 2. They talked about it at the Tekken Talk. It was a lot of stuff in there. I won't retrace the steps. If you want to hear more about it, you could go back and watch the video that I did breaking down everything. But yeah, they're looking to get back on track. But also, they do kind of have to make up for lost ground. I would just quickly touch on this tweet from Arslan Ash because I think it's a great one. I've been playing fighting games for years, and one thing for sure, there'll always be some system or character issues. No game's perfect, and that's okay. Lately, I've been feeling like guessing and being aggressive are key. To balance it, I think first to 3 matches should be a thing in upcoming tournaments, at least from top 32 or top 16 onwards. It gives us more time to guess our opponent's 50-50s. I mean, we really already putting in the work, practicing hours on end, and traveling crazy distances like 30-hour flights just to complete. I think now more than ever, fighting games are going through a transitional period. For example, mostly every fighting game shifting from doing DLC one at a time to all at once, and Tekken is seeming like it's going to be that way as well. There's a poll that Michael Murray is doing. I did a poll on the channel as well. I'll review both of those once they conclude, and we'll talk a little bit more about DLCs there. But fighting games is changing now more than ever, and I think it's also important to take a look at the tournament format and figure out what's the best way to do it. But what I also like about the Tekken team is that every single Tekken World Tour will, for better or for worse, sometimes it goes wrong, but they always are adapting and changing the model. I think the year 2024 was the best model, and they should probably just replicate that over and over again with some small fixes. Now, as for Harada, while we're on the topic of tournaments, The Evo Twitter tweeted out, okay, this time you can ask him a question. If you wanted to know about the evolution of game development, what goes into a game slash character design, or maybe just wanted a story from a man himself, drop a question for Harada. So maybe he'll give you an answer in the future Evo talk, right? So basically saying he will be at Evo and ask questions and maybe he'll answer it at that time. Now, it is funny that this comes at a time where the player base is asking for more clarity from the developers. Spaghetti Rip recently got a lot of flack on Twitter for saying that the developers did do a good job of communicating. And while I understand where he's coming from, I wouldn't necessarily say that they did a good job because they do talk about characters, updates, DLC. They do talk about random bits of lore and whatnot, but you have these crucial moments that goes largely unspoken, and the player base is left scratching their heads. The prime example to this, in my opinion, would be Tekken Prowess. Tekken Prowess matchmaking was an update that was did overnight, and one, we had to figure out whether or not it was there, it was done, and then two, once we figured out that it was done, we then have to start figuring out why it was done and if it was better. And the conclusion that we came to is that it was worse. It was worse than the previous thing. And season two is kind of confirming that because they're doing away with Tekken Prowess. Now, the reason why I say that their communication is bad is because what the developers, they obviously seen our reaction to it. But instead of letting us like figure it out and be confused and angry by ourselves, they should have stepped in and be like, hey guys, we see what you know, this Tekken Prowess update is kind of adding creating a little bit of confusion, a little bit of concern, and let us explain what it is, why we did it, what it used to be, and then maybe that could have made people understand it more, but they didn't do that. So I think that's an example of them not communicating properly. You can also talk about the taking down of mods. Me personally, bro, I'm not letting that go. Multiple people lost their channels, and me as someone who came close to that as well many times before, I know what that's like, so I won't let that go. But also, when you talk about the developers being like clear with the players, what's happening now is also important. I did a video a couple of days ago talking about the cheater Discord. Mike Hollow did one as well, and I believe Blackheart and probably many other content creators did a video talking about the cheater Discord. And this was such a shocking thing to me. Now, I do understand that a lot of people were saying that this has been going on for years and Bandai Namco won't do anything about it. So it's kind of up to the content creators to do like a battle with like cheaters and hackers and put themselves at risk, which is why the content creators who are walking that path I respect so much, because they are literally putting themselves on the front lines for the player base, right? Everyone says that they care so much about the game, but to see a content creator be willing to sacrifice it all to make the game better is incredible. But then also, you know, a lot of this information is being provided to the developers, and one, we're waiting for a response, but two, we're waiting for action. 10 years is more than enough time for them to prepare something, do something, and put an end to this problem. Tekken 7 was ruined by cheaters. Don't let Tekken 8 be the same way. Another thing on that subject as well is that there wasn't just one Discord. There was many other Discords that have been discovered, and that information has been collected, and it will be passed on to the developers. It's just a matter of whether or not they will do it. Something else that I will say as well, there was a little bit of a confusion about who all was cheating. I know in my video I was more so oohing and eyeing, and I didn't do, I guess, that good of a job explaining. And some people were going around accusing like content creators who were in the video of cheating. And I want to say, no, that is not the case. This list here of all these names you see are the people who was 100% confirmed cheating. Everyone else you saw in the videos or in screenshots or in discussions, all of those guys were a part of like the hate raid on the Discord. They were a part, like I was in there, right? I was a part of the raid, having fun, trolling. All of the other content creators and pro players that you may have seen in screenshots and whatnot were a part of that. It says breaking news: Warner Bros. Games is shutting down Monolith Production, Player First Games, and Warner Bros. San Diego. Sources tell Bloomberg News Warner Bros. Is also canceling the Wonder Woman game. Now, the reason why this is so important is because Mortal Kombat is also a part of Warner Bros. And it's not a part of any of these cancellations or shutting downs, but it's one step over. It is important that Mortal Kombat get it together and they make a really good game that the players love, a successful game, and they don't continue to stumble over themselves. Because if they do, they could be shut down or they could be sold off to another company. And who knows what a Mortal Kombat created by another company will look like. These fighting games are in a not a dangerous situation, but it's just very competitive. It's more competitive now than ever, and these fighting games have to be sharp if they want to continue to compete. The road ahead for these all games, really fighting games too, though, it's not easy. There is so much competition, and if you want to keep the players' interest retained, if you want to continue to grow, you have to be on point. No flaws, no controversy. Tekken 8 having a bad year one was not a good start. So with season 2 and here on, they got to be on it and they got to be active and they got to be cooking. And I am very interested to see if the developers can pull it around 360 no scope, trick shot, you know? Okay, now I'm just talking gibberish.